Okay, welcome to, I did that. Okay, welcome to the ChatGPT Openai integration into Drupal. Just like this picture suggests, AI and humans can live together. Yeah. Right now, AI is still in its infancy, so there's a lot of cuddliness, a lot of cuteness. So there's a lot of that. So my name is Salman Jaffery. I'm a developer at Corporate Labs. You can find me at sjpeter79 on Drupal.org. That's also my handle on the Drupal Slack channel. So if you need to reach me, that's the best way to do it. As for the slides, not only this slide, but all the other presentation slides, they'll be all online on the actual Drupal Camp Ottawa website. So if you go to the particular session, you'll see the slides there. So our today's agenda is to basically understand AI and how it works. We're also going to be talking about how to integrate it into Drupal. We'll be going through the entire setup process of how to actually install it, how to actually interact with it, and things like that. And then we'll try to customize some AI interactions, and then we'll talk about the future, what's involved in the future. Sure. So understanding AI. When we think of AI, we think of an artificial intelligence. That's what the normal name convention for it. But what it is more of like what an API is, right? It's basically something that requests some information, does something, then returns it back. It's just a little bit more smarter in that sense, because when it processes that request, it does so based on a huge data set, right, that it already possesses. And slowly, with more interaction, it actually evolves and gets smarter to do those things. But when we initially started looking into how AI, what is AI, like early, I guess 1300 AD is when initial talks of artificial intelligence was mentioned. But it wasn't until the 19th century, 20th century that we actually started looking further into it. Does anyone here know exactly when AI was seriously considered and computerized? Would you guys know? Do you think it would be the 80s, 90s?
Well, there's that play from I think it was 1920s.
Yeah, there's that play. There's a few other plays that happened in the 1940s. There was a Wizard of Oz, Tin Man thing that happened. So there's a lot of different things, but when it was seriously thought about being computerized was in 1956. Until that particular point, no computer in the world could actually store data, right? And there was all basically sending and receiving things. So it was basically at that particular point that they basically started thinking about how about we have more than just one-way communications, right? Well, how about we have some way to store information so that we can repeat and do other things? So that's basically how it came to be. And then slowly in the 60s and 70s, they started thinking of other ways of doing different other algorithms and things like that with computers. And then the whole basically how to basically do these things. But there's a lot of limitations back then. It was mainly due to storage, right? Up until the early 2000s, storage was very expensive. Storage was also very slow. Storage was also not as big as it is now. So once that whole hurdle was taken care of in the early 2000s, this whole system came out to be that, okay, now that we had these limitations of storage before, now we don't. But during the process that we had the limitation of storage, we built a lot of algorithms that could analyze big data. Even in the late 1980s, there was some sort of a large language model back then. It was extremely slow. Just to type out one sentence back then took at least 24 hours of processing. Right? Nowadays, that same process happens in a matter of seconds. Right? So that's how far we've gotten. The other change to the algorithm from back then to now is that back then they were doing shaded calculations on various decision making, which was that, okay, from this to this, it could be about this accurate, from this to this, it could be that accurate, and so forth. So it went from various shades. Now it's a lot more simplified. It's up to not a predefined shade, but it's up to a pre-learned shade, which is basically built on previous experiences. So basically what we've done in regards to machines is teach a machine as though it's a newborn, right? A newborn comes into the world with a very primitive knowledge about its bodily functions, but doesn't really know anything else. So a machine is very similar to that, except that it has no body, right? It has very little functions. So we basically teach it in the same manner. We give it an example, and then we repeat the example, right? Until it understands that there's a pattern going on. And then we can build on that. So it's basically complete repetition. So when we're doing this whole complete repetition, and the machine is constantly learning various patterns. It's developing what is known as a neural network, right? These are, it's basically similar to, this is just a concept, but it's one node that connects to many other nodes, right? So when you're given a phrase like I am Salman, right? It takes that and tries to build what you call relationship between I and am and Salman, and then I and Salman as well. You know, like it tries to build a weighted relationship between them. And some of that can come from the developer's biases as well, right? So like if a developer is making something, it can make assumptions that this is what I want to teach it, kind of thing. So as such, some biases can be put into it. So that's basically what the structure in neurons are. These are individual nodes, and then the connections between them are basically neurons. Then on top of that, we have what are considered layers in the neural network. So there's a top layer, which is basically all the requests coming in. We have the hidden layer, which is basically the processing that's happening on the neural network. Then what we have is the outgoing layer, which is basically transforming the existing network to kind of like add all the new examples that it's got and basically more refine it. So that's basically what happens. So this is what's considered as training data, right? It's constantly getting new information, it's constantly updating its neural network, it's constantly refining its understanding of how things work. It doesn't know what I is, it doesn't know what and is, but it knows that they go together, right? So that's basically where it's at. But at the same time, a newborn baby doesn't know what I is, it just repeats it, right? A newborn baby doesn't know what am is, but it will say I am if it's repeated enough times. So that's basically the idea of a machine as well, except that a newborn baby may take years to get to a certain point, whereas a machine can get to that point in a week, or maybe a couple of days if need be. And in some cases, I've got it going to, in a couple of hours, you can create an LLM, large language model, but it's not quite there. So that takes us to our large language models, LLMs, right? This is a term you've probably heard of. Basically, large language models are exactly that. It's a large set of data that basically forms a articulable language that can be prescribed for a particular a particular AI, I guess, and it's just it's basically a neural network of understood data, right? And everything that it incorporates. Now, when you do that, it may be able to form patterns that you don't even know, right? Because it is just a machine. It understands that there's patterns, and it will figure out exactly, if you design it in such a way that it can figure out new patterns, right? Then it may find things that maybe you don't even understand. So there's that. The capabilities of LLM is that it can talk to us like a regular person. It's not language bound. So it can understand Japanese, it can understand English, as long as it's given enough data, it can pick it up. It can understand Arabic or whatever else. It doesn't matter. And basically the idea is that large language models are going to refine the way that we interact with both our computers, which we're seeing nowadays with Copilot and other tools, as well as customer service nowadays is also pretty much large language models as well in some ways. And there's other things too, but so let's get into integrating all this stuff into Drupal. So basically, we know that AI is using large language models to interact with an end user. It gets a request from the top layer of its neural network, and then it processes it based on what it understands of that request, and then it sends an output back. So integrating with Drupal is not that difficult. There's existing modules out there that will let you do that. One of them is the AI interpreter. This module, if you checked out Robin's session, he was talking extensively about this. And it's basically a module that will feed in data into your Drupal site, pre-populate fields with any data that you want, either from within Drupal or from outside of Drupal, given some conditions. And those conditions can be defined with words rather than with any if this or that. You don't need to know code in order to actually define those conditions, right? This can be done fairly easily. That's the whole point of the large language models, is that it makes your interaction with the machine more humane. Not humane, but more like, it's not a Terminator, so it can understand what you're saying. It can talk back. Then, of course, we have the Openai ChatGPT integration module. This one basically works with the Openai ChatGPT stuff. So it'll bring in functionality like content editing, content authoring, integration into CCAD, integration into content moderation, and other things. It's a really cool module, and I've used it extensively. And then we have the Search API AI module. This module works extensively with the embeddings API. So if you, do you guys know what embeddings is? Or? No? Some do? Okay. No? Okay, anyway, I'll just briefly explain it. So large language models have all this data, right? Embeddings is basically attaching a subset of data that you personally own into this large data, right? That way, if you try to retrieve that data, it'll give you more data back that's in context to what you're requesting, because it's built those relationships. And Search API AI basically uses the embeddings API to basically build a layer of understanding. Okay, this is what you're requesting. Now, what does it really link to, right? And within your Drupal site. And it's because of those embeddings that it can understand that, okay, when I requested this, I'm actually asking for this particular node or something like that. So it can actually retrieve that information back. Now, I was going to talk about the Search API ChatGPT module exclusively in this talk, but as of July 18th, Drupal, the people that run Drupal, they introduced the Drupal AI initiative. So instead of talking about just the ChatGPT module, I thought we'd talk about the OpenAI initiative, the demo part. It's because it incorporates all three of these modules into one. So basically, everything that was done in OpenAI ChatGPT, AI Interpreter, Search API AI, have all been combined into what's now known as Drupal AI. And this module is basically what is. Yeah. Oh, excuse me one second. Yeah, sorry about that. I had older version of the slides, so yeah, the new ones have darkened out, and they also have the captions at the bottom. Yeah, so basically, the OpenAI initiative is a culmination of these three modules as well as some other modules as well, and it basically brings together these. So OpenAI ChatGPT was exclusively to be used with OpenAI integration, right? OpenAI initiative, the AI I forget the name of that. But anyway, that one was, it could be used by some things, and you could add plugins to have more interactions with it. AI search was basically required to be used with embeddings, but embeddings was only, there's only some providers that it could work with. So all of that now has been resolved because AI, the OpenAI initiative basically adds all these things together, right? And what we have now is the AI core, which is like a culmination of everything. And it's all pluggable, so that means you can create your own sources, source plugins, and things like that for it. Then we have the AI Explorer. This is like an admin area that you can actually see the raw output of you talking back and forth to an AI source and seeing the actual code that's actually being generated to talk back and forth. We have the AI Automator. So this is what the other module was doing already, which is like, pre-populating fields with various data coming from other places. It even has a plugin that it can take a YouTube video and make a text output of that YouTube video. It's pretty amazing stuff. Then we have AI CK Editor. This provides AI assistance in CK Editor to send a prompt. AI content. This allows you to add content moderations and other stuff into the actual content editing experience. There's AI external moderation, so I haven't really played too much with this one, but as far as I know, yeah, I can't comment too much on that one though. The AI logging one is a really cool one because it lets you enable log analysis through AI. So what that means is that it will identify anything that why certain things being, like some undefined functions are being called, where they're being called from, what's the potential fix for it, right? It can actually recommend all that sort of stuff. There's AI validations. These are really cool because you can actually set up a policy for actually validating your content so that anything that whenever anyone submits a publication, it will actually do some validation checks on the content to make sure that it meets certain requirements so it can be actually done, which is really neat. So out of the box, the Openai initiative has all of these AI providers, right? So there's Anthropic, Grok, Hugging Face, LM Studio, Mistral, Olama, and Openai. All of them are, so anything without the asterisk is kind of a paid service, you could say. There's Hugging Face there's a free tier to it, but it's very limited. The ones with the asterisks are things you can actually run locally, right? So if you wanted to run LM Studio locally, you can do that. You can get an open source LLM and basically have that generate your responses. Olama is the same thing. The things about these two is that if you're running them locally, the LM Studio especially, like you need some graphic hardware. I would recommend the video graphic hardware to run these, at least 8 gigs of RAM. Otherwise, you're going to run some issues. Basically, they're a little bit intensive. If you're using just CPU processing, Olama does allow you to do some CPU processing on it. It's just extremely slow. I can show you an example of that because I don't have a proper graphics card on my laptop, but I can show you how that runs. It's brutal. So making that make a request locally and then doing that is going to be extremely slow. But anyways, let's get into. Oh yeah, there's also the Drupal RAG integration module. This was actually announced on Monday of this week. It was developed by this particular user from Acquia. And RAG is so there's embeddings API, which I mentioned that, it's taking a small set of data and embedding it into a larger set of data and getting a more refined results back. RAG is it's the opposite of that. It's taking the large language model and saying, okay, I just want you to be able to understand, okay? But I don't want the information that you know. Now, I'm going to feed you in all the information from my site into you, and you're going to only respond to me with what you know from this. Okay? That's the difference between RAG and embedding. RAG stands for Request Aggregation Generator. Request Aggregator Generator. But basically, it's exactly that. I haven't had a chance to play with this at all because it's completely new and I couldn't quite set it up properly, but it is available at this address, and it seems like a very cool tool. Now, disadvantages to RAG compared to embeddings. RAG is just limited to the content you provide. So if it's not a lot of content, there's going to be some issues. It may misinterpret some things that you are providing it. Because it might be very technical to your business logic, and you may not quite understand exactly what it's trying to respond back. So, yeah. Okay, now let's get into a demo. All right. So here we have pull the chair. Here we have the Drupal Camp Ottawa website. So I'm going to be basically modifying this to work with the app. So we are going to use the Drupal.org project AI. So we're basically going to be using this module, which is the AI module. This is a combination of the three major projects. So it incorporates a whole bunch of different things, whether it's AI assistants in CKEditor, translations. There's a chart generation explorer, a lot of different tools. So there's a whole bunch of different things. So in order to get started, we install a composer. I'm pretty sure I already installed it, but I'll just run it as is. Once you install it, which I've already done, so can you guys see this, or should I make it bigger? Bigger. Bigger? Okay. Okay, so once you've got it installed, what you'll see in your site is, actually I can just do it here, Grep PMO, Grep AI. So you'll see a whole bunch of AI modules, so AI Core, AI API Explorer, AI Automator, AI CKEditor, and a whole bunch of things. There's also the Openai provider, which is what I've chosen to install. And there's also Event Hub. Okay, this is other stuff. But anyways, there's a whole bunch of different things. So there's one module in here called AI Automator, and it's an experimental. So the AI Automator module that's separate is like an early beta, but in this it's considered early alpha because it's trying to work with a lot of different sources. So it's really buggy at the moment. I won't be able to show off that particular thing, but I've been told that technically the due date for that was supposed to be today to get that feature live, but I think it's been pushed back a couple of weeks because they're just so busy with different things. But I've been told that will be ready in a couple of weeks, and that adds the whole field population stuff and things like that. Then we have a whole bunch of other stuff. So if I've enabled a few of these modules, as I've enabled AI Core, API Explorer. So if you're enabling these locally, I have actually, if I go into my demo stuff here, live demo. Oh no, sorry, this is the old one. So in my presentation notes, I've added all the instructions to get this module installed, as well as what you need in order to do so. So one of the things, so first things, of course, you enable the AI module, you enable the Openai provider, then you enable all the various modules that you want. You also have to get a key from here. So I'm using Openai as my provider for AI, since it's easier to get into for me, as I've used it extensively. So in order to use that, I'm just going to open up a new window over here, and you can see that I've already generated a key here for Drupal Camp Ottawa. But if I wanted to generate a new key, I can just go to API keys, or just create a new security key, give it a name, and hit create, and it'll basically provide you like a token that's your authentication key. After that's done, you're going to go back into your site and go into the configuration section. And inside configuration, you're going to get down to where the AI section is. Where's the AI support? I'm on the live site. That's not where I should be. That's the live site. There it is. So if I go into configuration, there's all the AI stuff. So by default, when you enable AI Core, you get AI default settings, and that's basically it. You get AI default settings. So in order to have default settings be doable, you also need to set up what's called your provider. So under provider settings, I enable the Openai module, so you get the Openai authentication. Here, you'll have to select the Openai key, which you can create from your key section. So under Drupal, there's a module called key. This is basically just a configuration that you can store for various authentications, other things. For this case, I'm doing authentication key, and I just gave it a name. I can call it whatever. Just call it Drupal Camp for now. We'll call it a key configuration. I have a key stored locally, right here. I'll make sure to blur that in the post. And then you just basically save it. And the key value, hit save. So here we have a Drupal camp key. So if you go back into configuration AI, then under provider settings, and open the authentication, you can actually select, let's say, Drupal camp, for example. You don't really need to do anything under advanced, but if you had AI moderation enabled, right, you'd have more settings here for that. I don't, because, okay, sorry, that's not exactly what this is. So there's moderations, there's, Drupal moderations, there are workflow states and different things like that. But this moderation is moderation of the AI request. So if you're moderating AI requests, you'll have settings there if you've enabled that thing. But I'm not going to do that because if you get into that and you're moderating the requests, some AI providers don't like that and they'll quickly ban you. So you have to be careful about that. If you have your own AI thing set up, then that's okay. You can facilitate that. But OpenAI, I know, for example, if you have moderation enabled, they notice a pattern, they'll quickly ban you. So yes.
Sorry, I don't question midway the
No, that's fine.
screen. Is there a control within Drupal that allows you to signal to the LLM or the model that you don't want it to retain or use your data for training? To put any restrictions on the use of the data? Or to decide done when we set up, only when you set up?
It depends on the provider. So some providers will let you do that, and it's normally done on your authentication account.
Yeah.
Right?
Within
Drupal, there's no settings like that right now. Some providers will do that. OpenAI does not. OpenAI will use everything you give it, and it technically owns everything you give it. So there's that. So that's the thing about the moderation. So we save that. Then if you need to actually test our configuration to make sure everything's, before that, we actually have to go in here and set up our default provider for every particular AI feature that's in here. So there's text-to-speech, there's audio-to-audio. Right now, OpenAI doesn't support that. Embeddings, OpenAI supports that, and you can actually specify the types of embedding if you want to do large, small, or ADA. So the differences between them is basically the number of tokens that are allocated per call. So a larger one, you can have somewhere around like 4,000 words that can be sent. So that way it can build a context of what you're talking about. Smaller one would be around like 200 long or something like that. And then there's another one, ADA, which I don't know much about, but those two, I know they have that. And the reason that it lets you do that is because OpenAI costs money. It's not free, right? So every request that we make to OpenAI is going to cost a certain amount. If you're using the ChatGPT 3.5 LLM, it's going to be like fractions of a cent. If you're using ChatGPT 4 or above, it's going to be a 0.25%. So it can build up fairly quickly. And the only reason that you'd want to use the more latest one is because it has more up-to-date data, right? ChatGPT 3.5 is only good until about 2021, 2022. So it knows up to that. After that, it doesn't have any idea. If you talk to it, it's like Drupal 9 is the latest release. You know, that's basically it. So there's that. So you basically set up all that sort of stuff. It's safe. Then after that, if you want to test to make sure that AI is working, we have what is known as the API Explorer. And in here, you can send a raw request to your AI provider and get an output back. So for example, here, I'm just a user, and I'm saying, welcome to DrupalCamp, Ottawa, 2024. And I can basically say, okay, I'm asking ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo and all these other things, which I'm not going to change because ChatGPT doesn't really like it if I change these things. So I'm not going to mess with it. So if I send the request, thank you. How can I assist you with DrupalCamp Ottawa 2024? That's the response I got back. So you can see that this is the code that it used to actually send the request. And this is the config set it built up. This is the, what do you call it, library it used. And these are function calls it made. You can say that it had all these things in it. And you can see that it's actually just sending a string, right, to ChatGPT. And it's basically taking that string and responding back. Then you can, ask it a question. Can you tell me about Drupal 11? Because that was released today. It wouldn't know it, but let's just ask it just for fun of it. It says that currently Drupal 11 is not yet released. However, Drupal is a popular version, blah, blah, blah. Keep an eye out for it. Yeah, so it doesn't really have that information, so it's like that. Then I can ask it, what is the latest version of Drupal? Drupal that is available. Out. Goes there, comes back. Let's see, there's the thing. ChatGPT 3.5, September 2021. That's the information set it has, right? It says we're on 9.27, so there you go. So there's that. I mean, there's more later models that will get you more up-to-date information. So there's one from July 18th, so it knows everything up until then. And it's just basically scraping the web, right? That's basically what OpenAI does, is basically scrapes the web. So nowadays, you have a lot of AI crawlers to your site, so you can't really control what they're doing because all of it seems like it's official, regular information. Because it seems like it's a regular user that's able to do that. If you have like one of those things that says, "Are you a human?" Right? Those captures that say, "Are you a human?" There's AI is smart enough to get around that nowadays. So it's learned to be that. Yeah. So then we have all the AI content stuff. So to go back into AI and go into the AI content settings, let's skip the whole content setting config because we don't have much time as is, so we'll just jump into a particular use case. So let's see, here we have the posing remarks. Or even let's go to the ChatGPT session that we have here. Where is it? Nothing. Chat. So here's my ChatGPT session. So here we have that. On the right-hand side, you can see that there's various AI content stuff that we can do. So there's there's a just content tone. So here we can basically say, okay, given the description field, can you choose one of these things? Can you explain like I'm 5, adjust the tone, and it'll basically talk to Openai, send the description of the entire thing, and give us an output back hopefully soon. Processing. There we go. So here, all right, kiddo, imagine you have an awesome toy robot named AI. He's so cool that he can change the way we see toys on our computers. So this is basically rewriting this as though I'm a 5-year-old. So here is basically where we can get into what's known as prompt engineering, right? So we have basically an idea of we want to refactor some text into some other tone. So we ask AI to do that. That's considered as what is known as what did I just say? Tone? I can't even understand. But anyway, that's basically what it means. But we can also go into it and give it a different. Let me just pull the stuff. Okay, don't need that. Open up this module. Okay. AI modules. All right, take care. So we have the AI content module. Under it, we have a source, we have a form, that's the account stuff. Where's this AI? Control Shift Cut. I'll show you everything. I'm fine. Sorry, one second. Basically, you can modify the list here and send it different prompts to basically reformat it as you see fit. So if you want to translate it into like Klingon or something like that, you could just do that too. Then there's, what do you call it? You can summarize the text. You can suggest content titles, all these various things. Then there's also, you can use CK Editor AI plugins to basically adjust the tone, summarize. You can also translate here. So if I want to translate this into, I don't know, French, you can send that off, and in a couple of seconds, it should translate this into French. So there you go. The selected text, they just translated that into French. So all these sorts of tools are there. You can also reformat HTML. Then we have a few other things, but I don't think the time's going to allow me to continue. Do you guys have any questions or comments? Or was it too much? Yes.
Yeah, I guess the first part, the patient serving, and a couple of them already. Like, did you happen to play around with the search capabilities?
The search?
Yeah.
So I haven't played with this. So there is an AI search, which is the search API search, search API AI. Yeah, so that's been now merged into what is known as the AI initiative now. So this is basically the AI initiative module, and it has basically all those things. I didn't set up a Solar instance here because I didn't want to go too much into it, as that would be a lot to cover. But I just wanted to cover the basics of this. But if The API search is using what's known as embeddings API to basically embed what's within Drupal into search API with the context of the larger language models, so it can do better searches. Yeah, that part is still in this particular case is still under development because it's now working with not just Openai but with other sources as well. So they're working on this. If you guys want to get involved in this particular initiative, I would strongly suggest you go onto the Openai, Drupal AI initiatives section and join there. There's a lot of talks going on back and forth. This is still very fresh, right? So for this to get into core or something like that, it's much further down the line. Yes.
Yeah, and so I want to ask you about that. When I first saw the interpolator,
Yeah.
Almost on the same day, I saw the Drupal AI initiative
Yeah.
and a discussion about how the guy who developed the interpolator was going to hold off and join into this,
Yeah.
and so take a big step back in delays in the hope of something much better. And if I understood you just now, Automator, which is what interpolator
Yeah.
has become, is the one piece that's not been delivered.
Yeah, so it's still currently experimental. It's the only experimental module amongst the others. It's because it doesn't quite work with all the sources just yet. If you have the OpenAI one, it works somewhat right now. There's still some issues, but it does work. And it will, it'll generate images for you based on what the body text is, and it'll, as Robin showed up, it'll make a Q&A of your entire thing if you want to. It could generate articles for you and things like that. But it is there. It's right now. It just works with the OpenAI stuff. It doesn't work with any of the other plugin providers just yet.
So, two questions.
Yeah.
Given that there's a piece of the OpenAI project, a major piece that's still sitting out there and experimental, have you used the OpenAI project on any production sites yet?
No, the only production site I've used it on Drupal.
Okay. So when you're looking realistically at your own projects, how far away do you think we are before you trust your own reputation to use it on a production site?
It's a tough question. If we were to use...
Days, weeks, or months?
It could be weeks,
Okay.
is the thing.
Yeah.
But there's a catch to that. I wouldn't expose AI to the public from my site.
Yeah.
I use it for internal development, internal, building of content and things like that, right? I wouldn't expose it to the public because of all the AI crawlers out there. I've known a company that tried to roll out an AI thing, and what they found out was that what they initially estimated to be a couple of thousand per month turned into hundreds of thousands a month because of all the AI crawling they were doing. They were basically crawling the AI assistant that was on the site, right? And it's just constant request, and it just eats up so much money. They had to turn the site off after 2 days because it cost them like $150,000. So, yeah. It's, so I wouldn't expose it to the public, but I would keep it for internal stuff. I think there's enough there that you can do that for the internal stuff without having too much. Now, given that there's the Search API AI module, that also builds into that. So if you have, there's works, so you can't technically ban AI crawlers yet. Just because they act as humans. Because the way that OpenAI interacts with your site when it's crawling it is doing it in a virtual machine. It'll open up your site in a virtual browser and then interact with it with clicks. That's how it actually interacts with your site when it's crawling your site. So it behaves like a regular human being. So there's no way to actually stop it. There's a robot.txt file that all crawlers are supposed to abide by. Some AI crawlers from China and other countries don't really abide by those rules. So, yeah, we've had some of our clients that were being constantly crawled by Chinese crawlers, and we had to basically ban all of China from hitting those sites because they're basically DDoSing the entire thing. So, yeah, so there's. I wouldn't expose it to the public just yet, but if you want to use it internally for content moderation, content development, that sort of thing, I think it's ready. Even I use Copilot and what you call VS Code to basically generate tests and other code. I think that's ready to go. A lot of the content I even placed on the Drupal website was done with ChatGPT. So, that's, I'm like, okay, I want to write this, but I want to write this in a professional manner. I want to reword this in a thing that's more inviting or something like that. Can you do this for me? And it does that. So it's really cool for that purpose. It saved me a lot of time. So I think it's, yes.
I have one more question. So suppose now we have multiple AI available. So suppose this module only work with the Openai client, or suppose Azure also provides some AI, right, to filter the content. Like suppose I have a website where the anonymous user posts the blog, and sometimes they can use the more fancy or the bad one. And suppose we want to filter out that, and I want to use some other's AI API. So
Yeah.
how I can use with this module?
So this module doesn't uses more than just the OpenAI. It uses other providers as well. So if you wanted to use it with the Azure cloud stuff, you can do that. The plugin for that is not available yet, but there's one in the works. There's plugins for AWS being worked as well. So there's a lot of stuff being done. There's also a plugin that I'm currently working on, which is to work with DigitalOcean's cloud machines, right? So to get those working with this, and there's a whole slew of other plugins coming out. So you can actually, this one is not dependent on one particular AI provider. You can use pretty much anyone to do that. And that's the whole point of the Drupal AI initiative, is to not be limited to one particular AI source. You can just have your own, or you can have multiple others that do it, because that's basically what the AI settings are, default settings are for. That you can say ChatGPT for this, Azure Cloud for that, other things for that, because they all have various advantages and strengths, right, and disadvantages, So yeah, so there's that. All right. Yeah, so all the images that were basically generated in these slides were using Meta AI, right? So there's, Meta does a really good job with Terminator, so. But yeah, it was a fun thing. All right. Well, I also added some useful links on the back of my lead on this one if you want to get involved with the monthly meetups. I have the Drupal YouTube channel, but there's also Drupal Slack. And I don't know if you guys know about the YowDev Slack. It's an Ottawa-based Slack group. It's not Drupal-centric, but it's just all developers in Ottawa on it. So there's that. Drupal YouTube, and then there's also Drupal.tv as well. So after the conference, all the presentations will be on the YouTube channel as well as on Drupal.tv, and all these slides will be on the website as well. So everything should be available. Yeah, so thank you so much, and thank you for sponsorship. All right.